Narcissists spin inconsistent narratives that keep them in control and have everyone else around them saying, wait, what? So, did this week's activities prove that Harry and Meghan are narcissists? And what happens when delusion turns to danger for not only themselves, but also the rest of society? Hey everyone, welcome back to AshleyBTV. I'm a former TV news reporter and Hollywood actress who takes you behind the headlines. If you're new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'd love to start a community called maybe potentially the Beekeepers, standing for AshleyBTV, and also a nod to Meghan's little, oh, just contact your local beekeeper comment. So let me know if you like that name or you have another one in the comments below. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Help us reach our next goal of 10K subscribers. I'm going to do a fun giveaway, and I promise it will not be her overpriced jams. Without further ado, let's get into the royal recklessness.
The only thing that I've been asking for throughout this whole process is safety.
In this episode, we're diving deeper into Harry's BBC Meltdown, their continued appearance all across social media, including Queen Bey's concert, and their ongoing fraudulent fairy tale narrative that keeps them in Delulu and has all of us saying, has this gotten to the point of danger? Let's rewind. For months, Harry's been suing the UK Home Office for downgrading his taxpayer-funded police protection. After he and Meghan stepped back from royal duties, he claimed the decision was unlawful and unfair, arguing that he and his family are still at risk when they visit the UK due to persistent threats from media harassment and extremist groups. He also emphasized that he is #1 on the watch list. Here's where it gets interesting. Harry already has private security, and that includes top-tier bodyguards paid for out of his own pocket. But what he wants is the Metropolitan Police level protection, including access to intelligence briefings, armed escorts, and automatic integration into royal security protocols. And let's be clear, that level of protection is typically reserved only for working royals and heads of state.
Private security can only do so much. Again, I can't go into the details of that, but I think most people will be able to work that out. One of the major things is they don't have jurisdiction in a foreign country, or in any country. They don't have any jurisdiction. Police protection is effective protection, which is what my grandmother made very clear that we needed.
So Harry's case was essentially, I quit the job, but I still want the benefits. Doesn't that remind you of someone, maybe his wife, HRH? Not surprisingly, the UK courts just obviously weren't buying it. They ruled against him, saying the decision to downgrade his protection was, quote, reasonable, justified, and lawful. Cue King Charles, am I right? Well, Charles didn't intervene, and Harry was very, very upset by this, not at all taking accountability for his actions that might have swayed his family to look the other way, including his, bombshell appearance with Oprah, his, I was gonna say H&M, his Harry and Meghan documentary, and his, what was the last thing? Oh yeah, his book, where he exploited his entire family. He does not like to take accountability, but he also says time is precious. Wasn't time precious this whole time? He says his father doesn't have a lot of life to live left.
You know, life is a precious thing, and I'm acutely aware of the fragility of that. I can only come to the UK safely if I'm invited.
Harry suggests that his father refused to meet with him during his short UK visit despite undergoing cancer treatment, and Harry says, it is time, folks. I know you said no to my 4-year lawsuit, but it is time to meet with me. Oh, Harry, it's screaming, I didn't get my way, but still love me. And mind you, Harry, your family still loves you, but you keep literally bashing them every chance you get, and it's time to stop, okay? Okay, it's time to stop. Palace insiders say Charles wasn't available, but the subtext was the king doesn't trust the Sussexes, period. And we've seen time and time again that even private conversations, the the Markles, I'm just gonna say the Markle, they tend to just make those private conversations public, so why would you trust them? Which brings us to the BBC moment. Just hours after losing his appeal, Harry, instead of maybe, taking a nap or going to a therapist, he was like, nope, I am going straight to my favorite people in the world, and that is BBC. And he sat down for what could be described as a controlled PR flare-up. In the interview, he slammed the ruling as an old-fashioned establishment stitch-up and implied that his father could fix everything with one simple phone call. Okay, Harry, your father doesn't rule the entire government. There's still a whole firm that makes those decisions, and somehow still insisted he wants reconciliation.
There is a lot of control and ability in my father's hands, ultimately this whole thing could be resolved through him.
Now here's the real kicker. Now the Prince of Montecito, you like that, Prince of Montecito? He now has to pay $1.5 million in legal fees out of pocket. So I want us to do the math. How many overpriced jars does Meghan need to sell in order for him to pay those legal fees? 9 times 9 divided by, wow, this is why finance was not my degree.
I can never leave the royal family. Yeah, that is my family. That is my larger family. I left the institution because at the end of the day I had to.
On Talk TV, this was really interesting because a psychologist and a narcissist expert analyzed his behavior, which has actually turned to be very dangerous when he's inciting that some of the royal family would like to see him and Meghan have the same fate of his late mother.
I don't want history to repeat itself. I think there's a lot of other people out there, the majority, that also don't want history to repeat itself. Through the disclosure process, I've discovered that some people want history to repeat itself, which is pretty dark.
That's quite a statement. Who do you think that is?
I'm not going to share it at this point. You know, I know all the names of the people that were involved in this process, and again, you know, you have to question, why wasn't I put through the same risk management board that everybody else was put through? Whether I have an official role or not is irrelevant to the threats, risks, and impact.
What I see is a deeply codependent man. He's not recovered from the trauma of being raised in the royal family and losing his mother so young. I think he's in a small cult, and Meghan's the cult leader. I don't think that she's there to replace his mother, Diana. I think she's an extension of Diana's mission, which was to escape the royal family. So he thinks that through Meghan and this weird little cult that he's the mouthpiece of, because I think you're right about the paranoia, and that's a very narcissistic stance. It's called they're called ideas of reference, which you think everybody's talking about you, everybody's conspiring.
So you're so important
you.
that you're the centre of attention, and everybody spends
100%.
their time thinking about you.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Harry's paranoia seems to continue to grow by the day, and many are really speculating that the paranoia has seemed to stem from his relationship with Meghan, and all of her talks have been paranoia building on top of another. We saw in the documentary, they were like, someone's chasing us, and it ended up being a paparazzi on a bike.
This poor guy doesn't have a strong sense of self. I think he's been carved out by somebody who's much stronger than him psychologically, much more pathological than him, and he's been fully instrumentalized. And he's now mirroring her worldview, which is paranoid.
Well, take a listen to this TikToker who really highlights the dangers of who you marry, which could either lead you down a path of iron sharpens iron and you continue to help each other grow and be better people, or you take each other down a path of destruction.
Meghan is definitely a narcissist, but so is Harry. Harry is delusional, he's a victim, and I think he's still living in the age of when he lost his mother. So he sounds like he has paranoia, and all Meghan Markle did was when he married her, she elevated and continued to give him a platform to feel validated in his victimhood. Her and Harry are pretty delusional people, but now that they're married to each other, they've highlighted each other's delusion, they've validated each other's delusion, and this is proof that Meghan Markle is a horrible, horrible Mary. Because to all the men, I'm gonna say, men, make sure you marry a woman that's going to elevate you for the better. And vice versa, women, make sure you marry a man that's gonna elevate you for better. Because when you look at the relationship that Harry has with his family, that Meghan Markle has with her family, they literally are isolated alone because they've self-destructed everything around them. And that is pretty much a question to ask yourself. Is this relationship powerful or is it detrimental?
And inconsistent narratives is what the public is so sick of when it comes to Harry and Meghan, and it really continues to be that web of lies they keep spinning. It's kind of like when we saw him go, we didn't call the royal family racist. That was you. That was the media. Did my wife call them racist? I mean, she implied that in the Oprah interview, Harry. Anyway, he says that he wants security, yet he's found roaming the streets of London. These photos are absolutely hilarious. He is knocking on the doors. It seems to be early morning, and he is caught on these security cameras. Apparently, his alibi is that he was searching for his friends who happened to have moved out of the country and moved to Switzerland, and now they're renting out their home, and somehow he didn't know that. So was he just trying to surprise his friends? Were these even his friends? Was this a drug deal involved? That's what some are speculating. Not my words, their words. But it is a little worrisome for someone to have claimed that they need to fight tooth and nail for the absolute highest security in the world with armed protection and everything. They're the #1 hunted person in the world. And by the way, let's declare that to the entire world on television. But also, simultaneously that same day, we should peruse the streets and just knock on doors. Now, some are saying if he didn't have an armed guard with him, that's the stupidest thing he could have done. Well, even if he did, let's just say he did have security like waiting in the car. If you are the prince, you are not the one knocking on the doors. You're the one staying in the car saying, hey, can you see if my friend is there? And if they are your friends, why don't you have their phone number? If they're not answering, don't go to their house. That is so weird. Maureen from The Nerve is speculating that it's more than that potentially it could be some sort of, some weird happenings behind the scene. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. There might be more to their story. There might not be. It just seems really, again, inconsistent with what he's trying to tell the public. Like, I can't even bring my children ever to see their cousins or ever to see the king because we would be killed. And that is very dangerous for him to make those statements. One, it's almost like, are you inciting violence? Are you kind of egging it on? And Megyn Kelly pointed out today, it almost looks like he's kind of like excited that he's a victim, that he feels like he's being threatened. And there's something very sick and dangerous about those kinds of statements. Let's be very clear.
The last R&B assessment that I was given, I scored the highest. The only person within the family that scored anywhere near that was my grandmother. Overnight, I was reduced to the lowest.
Also, he then reportedly ordered food from the delivery service Deliveroo, which in America would be like Uber Eats. And again, if you're trying to protect where you're located and your security, you're not putting that on your card. Like, I know people, they have their assistants do all that. They have their whole team. You're not the one saying, hello, can I have a pizza for Prince Harry? Also, why did he go straight to the BBC instead of talking to a therapist? Because the BBC was among the media outlets that he accused of fueling the chaos that led to his mother's death. The same institution he's blasted in lawsuits and documentaries, and now he's all like, hey, bestie, you want to break this story? I feel like we should do a 30-minute deep dive. I feel like whoever is their PR person is like, their hair is probably turning gray and they're losing it, because Harry and Meghan, I don't think, are listening to any PR professionals, because none of them would say, you know what you should do right now? You should go on BBC. You should do it just a couple hours after the lawsuit. No, this is a time where you reflect, you take a beat, you take a day or two and say, okay, how are we going to spin this? Maybe I should sit down with my wife too, because we have never heard her talk about in years about the royal family, or if there even is going to be any kind of reconciliation. Let me just say one thing I was thinking about, because my mom passed away from Alzheimer's, and I know how precious life is. I'm sure many of you have lost your loved ones to illness, and his father has cancer, and Princess Catherine also had cancer earlier this in 2024, and is probably still battling with things related to it, because I know, I have some friends battling cancer right now, but it's not something that just goes away. Your family is suffering right now, Harry, and they need you, in the way that you used to be back in like maybe 2015, not how you are in 2025. So is life precious, and are you going to be the bigger person and do something about this, or are you going to keep spinning the narrative that you actually, the healthy one in Montecito, frolicking and making jam, are the one that is the victim? Because it's the math ain't mathin', you know what I mean? Another royal reporter pointed out that Harry has continued to be the spare. Originally, he was the spare for his brother, and then he became the spare for Meghan, seemingly kind of just like her sidekick, the support to her. And I'm all for being the support to your spouse. I try to be the support to my husband. He tries to be the support to me. But he's constantly kind of like taking the back seat to be the spare and to be the one that's victimized. And I think what we really saw in that BBC interview was someone who was finally coming to terms with, oh, wow, that's literally it. That's it. Like, I'm done. I'm not going to all of these glorious events. I'm not participating in the charities. What do I have to live for anymore? Because my life was literally designed by God on earth to be a life of service. And who am I serving now, if not my wife's overpriced lemonade stand? It honestly is like someone said lemonade stand. I was just thinking, I'm like, well, she sells honey, she sells tea. It's basically a lemonade stand. Oh boy. Oh boy. As that brilliant TikToker pointed out, the narcissism is really being fueled by each other. It's like the fire that keeps building. We talked about the fire of Hollywood in our last episode. If you haven't checked that out, check that out next. We talked about the fire of kind of resentment that Hollywood was having towards elitism like Harry and Meghan, and that fire of narcissism also continues to grow between H and M. Notice how on Jamie Kern Lima's podcast, Meghan said, that man just loves me so much, but she never actually said that she loved him. Wow, guys. That was so funny because I was like, okay, she's gonna say it now. I was like waiting for the moment where she was gonna be like, and I also love him. Also, a big thing that everyone keeps asking is, Harry, what is he doing? Invictus Games, I guess, goes every 2 years. So what is he working on right now? But then Meghan also loves playing into this narrative like she's the princess and he's going to slay the dragon to free the princess, just like in Mario Kart. I'm sorry, but that's destructive. I can't even imagine telling my husband, your family, they are dragons and you need to slay them so I will be free. Like, I can't even imagine any riff in our family like that because I'm so close to my family. I think family is so important. And, you know, whether you're close to your family or not, I'm sure you guys go in different seasons up and down. The goal should always be like, let's try to bring our family together, you know, unless it's super destructive. But they're constantly saying, she's saying how important the family unit is, yet her dad and her brother-in-law are now living in the Philippines, which I have actually a lot of friends in the Philippines, and the Philippines is a great place to retire, especially on a budget, but I'm sure they're not doing great, it seems like, based on the headlines. And he's not talking to his family, so all you have left is your mother. You didn't even wish her a Mother's Day. Again, another narcissistic trait that we saw on Meghan's social media. She gave her a post that talked about the kids climbing Mama Mountain, and boy, we are juggling it all on Mama Mountain and doing it all with joy. She does it all, guys, with joy. You know what you could have written? And no shade on anyone who's writing their own Mother's Day post, because I think if you're a mom, you can do whatever the heck you want and reward yourself. But what would have been better is if she said, oh my gosh, you know, happy Mother's Day, everyone. Mine was so great. I'm so thankful for my husband, blank, blank, blank. And I'm so thankful for my children, blank, blank, blank. Not, whoo, I am Mama Mountain with all the salt on my fries. It's like, Meghan, you don't eat fries. I know you don't eat fries. That is not a body that eats fries. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I don't personally think you eat fries. The Delulu that they continue to live in is because they're continuing to surround themselves with yes men, not truth tellers. It's a classic trait of narcissism, avoiding hard feedback, avoiding people who can challenge you, who can sharpen you, ignoring how they're being perceived globally. Meghan loves to talk about how I don't read the headlines, I don't look online, and that's fine. You know, you got to protect your mental health, but you also need feedback.
And the thing about Meghan Markle is the energy that I get from her is she's one of the most insecure people that wants to come off like she's so perfect. And the only type of people that she can surround herself with, because if she surrounds herself around confident, intelligent people, she'll be exposed, is she only hangs out with people that idolize her.
When you are building a product for the public to consume, you need to hear their feedback. And I have coached a lot of senior executives, and a lot of times people at the top, they don't necessarily know what's going on like at the factory level floor. That's why you need people in between to say, okay, I love that for you, but right now the world does not need a 3-layered cake that takes 12 hours to make. Yeah, guys, I made that, by the way. If you haven't seen that video, I need you to watch it next. But it's like you really need to know the pulse of the nation. I was telling Ellen when I was researching, I'm like, cool. I'm trying to find the heartbeat of the nation. And we literally burst out laughing because you need to understand and like feel how people are moving in society right now. Like, what is important to them? Why is it important? Why do people care about certain things? And why do they not want to see certain things? Like, we had all these different buildings, and some of them were being upgraded and some of them weren't at a company I worked for. And the ones who weren't being upgraded, those people did not want to hear about the ones that were. You know what I'm saying? So understanding the heartbeat and the pulse of the nation, or the globe, I should say, in their case, is extremely important in building your brand. And there's a huge difference between not caring and not being open to constructive feedback. You can't sell your story to the world and then plug your ears on how it lands. You gotta listen. You gotta listen, baby girl. Now, here's the thing. A lot of her supporters, I've seen a lot of videos, and mind you, I used to kind of be a supporter because I was like, oh man, they're getting so much hate. Like, why are they getting so much hate? And then you start to see, oh yeah, that thing that kind of felt off, like their first interview and how she said she didn't know anything about the royal family. Okay, I literally knew zero. Like, my friend who worked at Fox, she'd always go to London and she'd always tell me she loved Princess Diana. And I was like, cool, I like know of them, but I don't know much about them. Meghan saying that she went on a date when people have uncovered that she was wearing Princess Diana's perfume, and she's like, I have literally no idea what you're talking about. Her not knowing that you had to curtsy to the queen. And even if you did know that, okay, oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Let me take a beat. Let me learn how to curtsy. Let me not make a mockery of this. That was ridiculous. It's like all the things that supporters like my former self would be like, it's fine, guys. It's like not that serious. Like, let's move on. Stop hating. Now I was blind and now I can see. Thank you so much for helping me see, because I couldn't see before. Oh my gosh. Here's the thing. All of her supporters saying, stop hating, stop with the vitriol. It's not hate or vitriol. It's holding public authorities on a global level accountable to elitism, narcissism, and inconsistency. And if you don't call this out, who is going to? Because we need to hold these people accountable for what they represent. We don't want our daughters and our sons growing up thinking, yeah, you can act like that. You could say this and then do this. It's not that big of a deal. Talk about another inconsistent narrative. How about singing along to Queen Bee's concert? That whole thing was so odd because, again, it's like a day after Harry has his interview, just looking so distraught, looking so worn down, like he hasn't slept in weeks. Meanwhile, Meghan's saying she's the happiest they've ever been because they were in the trenches for 7 years. I'm sorry, you left the royal family 5 years ago. Why are you still in the trenches? Like, where are you in the trenches in your multi-million-dollar mansion frolicking with the chickens? I want some chickens. Get me some chickens. That didn't make any sense. And then you appear at Queen Bee's concert, just dancing the night away. I didn't see any security around you. I could tell they were in one of those boxes, but there's still thousands and thousands of people around them. Inconsistent narratives. No one likes to support liars. The inconsistent narrative also stems from Meghan continuously trying to rep the royal title recklessly. And we saw this in our last episode when we pointed out that she wrote HRH, love HRH, to her good friend. I was thinking about this. I'm like, I don't even write Ashley B to my friends. Like, they would be like, why did you write the letter B? That's so weird. That's so weird, girl. Like, why are you writing your last name? There's absolutely no reason to write your last name. There's absolutely no reason to write a title in which you said the institution that title came from was racist and terrible and destructive and doesn't support mental health and led you to the point of almost taking your own life, which is not something to joke about at all. But because it's not something to joke about, why would you want to represent it? It doesn't make sense. You can't have your cake and eat it too, baby girls. Another way she's also leveraging her ties to the UK is actually on the box of her products. Did you see this? Take a look.
What the hell is that? You know, I paid $14 US for this, and it's just come bashed up. She writes, let's call this a hug in a box. I fell in love with the ritual of tea and biscuits during my time in the UK. Lies.
Oh, so much.
If I spent that much money to order her products and my box came like that, I too would also be like, WTF. Here's the thing. You guys in the comments and all of our British friends have made it very clear the UK does not want these reckless, fraudulent royals repping the crown. Bye-bye. You left the job, now you lose the title. It's like signing Jimmy, the business analyst, after he loses his job. You lost the job. You can't sign that way anymore. In fact, the public has made it very, very clear they want nothing to do with these two. A recent poll by The Express found that 97% of 4,500 respondents believe that King Charles should remove Prince Harry's title. Now, whether or not King Charles does, Prince William sure will. This sentiment reflects the growing public frustration in the UK over Harry and Meghan's continued use of royal titles despite stepping back from their duties back in 2020. Now, we do know that Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet are still in line for the crown. However, according to multiple sources that I've been reading, page 6, people.com, the UK shows little connection to these children or interest, and you guys have also made this clear in the comments, and evidence shows that recent polls do not need to have anything to do with these children. Now, I also just feel bad because these children can't speak for themselves yet, so I do think everyone should give them a fair shot at life in terms of where they want to live, how they want to serve in their lives. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go down with their mother and father. What's also pretty dangerous is they continue to actually exploit their children to, again, prove a point. Every time they use their children in photos, yes, they are not showing their faces, but they are exploiting the use of their children. For instance, Meghan posted a photo of the children with Harry the day that they heard about that court announcement. And again, once her product was launched, she used Lilibet in a photo. And then again, when she was saying Happy Mother's Day to herself. So that's not exploiting children.
She really needs to make a decision. It's like she loves being the mother of a prince and a princess. Like, she loves that so much. And she knows that people in the UK especially would love to see them. You know, they have a connection to the royal family. They don't like her, but I don't think anybody would hold it against her children. They'd like to see the lineage, and they're technically, I guess, in the line of succession if many, many bad things would happen. But so she just teases them. You know, it's like, here's just the back of his head, even though she's making public figures out of them because she talks about them all the time. And Harry uses them, my father's grandchildren, as a cudgel. So they're happy to use these children at every turn, whether it's to make money or to make threats, but just to tease, you know, because I guess we can't see their face unless it's on Netflix, in which case it's fine. Because they do put out pictures of them once in a while.
And if you want to dive deeper into how the media and celebrity figures are using children on social media, how influencers are using children on social media, I do have an expert I would love to chat with. So let me know if you're interested in that in the comments below. But before we go, there is a secret weapon to all of this that Harry and Meghan could have used. And it was right at their fingertips. And you might not have thought of this right away, and that is Queen Camilla. In terms of rewriting a narrative, she would have been a great secret weapon that they had in their back pocket because she went from mistress to queen, which is, I don't think, ever happened in history. Keep me honest if I'm wrong on this. But at the time when that all went down back in, the 90s, I know that she was not looked upon very gracefully, and now she has presented herself with grace over the years, taken a backseat, understood her position as an ensemble player, not just a background player, but an ensemble player. You're not the main star, but you're still a very important star, which is what Meghan doesn't understand. You would think she would understand this because while she was a very top star in the show Suits, it was still an ensemble cast. It wasn't like the Mindy Project or like New Girl. She was part of the ensemble, and Meghan did not want to be a part of the ensemble because narcissists don't want to be team players. They want to be the leading man, the leading lady. And unfortunately, these two narcissists are feeding into each other, and it's just going to lead to continued isolation and destruction. These two have also become figureheads when it comes to comedy. And coming up in our next episode, I'm interviewing someone you are not going to want to miss. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Your support means the world to me. Let me know what you want to continue to dive deeper in, whether it's in this series Behind the Crown or in our ongoing series Behind the Headlines. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet caught up on how Hollywood has quietly canceled Harry and Meghan, watch this video next. I will see you in the next video. I love you guys so much. Ciao.
Show me life, show me love.